Do we have Telesco here?
I do not see Telesco.
I'm from Telesco. Hi, I'm from Telesco.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the May 11th City of Norwalk Public Library Board of Directors meeting. Present are myself, Ralph Bloom, Janie Williams, Alex Knopp, Laurel Peterson, Mary Mann, Geraldo Williams.
And
So
Cheryl Harris from the library.
I'm sorry,
Cheryl
and
Harris.
Cheryl Harris from the library. Cheryl Harris. She's omnipresent, so.
The word Zoom does come on board. I've lost this view.
Pardon me, Ralph?
I've just lost all the pictures.
I know it happens sometimes. Do you have some buttons down at the bottom?
There we go.
You got it? Okay.
Okay, great. So let's do the approval of the minutes. And then if we don't have any public comments, I would just like to rearrange the agenda a little bit so we can put the this solar car station right after that. So is your name Mike?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So we can hear from Mike. I'm sorry, I don't see your name there. My image is stuck, but can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So we have two sets of minutes, the March 9th minutes and the April 13th minutes. And would anyone like to move to approve the minutes? Then we could see if there's any discussion about them.
Mary has
Okay,
something.
Mary Mann moves to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion around the minutes? Okay. Second,
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Is that unanimous? Yeah.
Yes.
Moina, one thing, I wasn't at the March 9th meeting, so my vote should only apply to April.
Okay, and so Laurel Peterson abstains. So we have the April 13th minutes. Anyone would like to move to approve those minutes?
I'll move.
So we have Ralph Bloom moves to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Okay, second. Laura Peterson, all in favor? And that is unanimous. So if there are no public comments, let's move on to the solar charging station at Sono. Cheryl, would you like to introduce our guest?
So I just want to make sure there's nobody. I thought I saw Diane Loratello, but it was actually Laurel when I saw.
Oh, yeah, actually, she just texted me. She said, "This is Diane. I have my hand up."
Yeah, I don't see her.
Oh.
I see guest, Moina, let me just see, attendees, okay, here she is.
Okay. Okay, public comments. We have Diane Laura Cella and John Levin present. It's Diane, would you like to speak? Can you hear us, Diane? Are you on mute? Can you, is that something you can control, Cheryl?
It is not. I sent her something asking her to unmute. And she has permissions. Let me just see if I can promote her to panelist. Hold on. That might work better. Let's see. Diane, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Diane, go ahead.
I'm sorry about the technical issues there. Anyway, for the record, here I am. Wow.
Great.
All right. Well, for the record, my name is Diane Lauricella. I don't know why the lights are going on and off. Sorry about this. Can you?
Yeah, it's fine. Just go ahead. Just go ahead. It's not
I'm
bothering
going
me.
to turn off my video because of that. Anyway, for the record, Diane Lauricella, I wanted to thank you on the board of directors for all your hard work. I have a growing concern related to the ongoing discussion about the upcoming potential of the purchase of the back lot, the parking lot. I find that it's very important for Norwalk to have a first-class main library. I'm glad we're investing money in our South Norwalk Library, but our main library, we're at what I think is a juncture. I just wanted to say that I have visited libraries from our surrounding towns as they have found a way to improve and make sure that they have a auditorium meeting room on the first floor. I myself have been hesitant to hold certain kinds of forums because of the condition of the upstairs main library auditorium. It's very difficult when you have multimedia. I know we're trying to improve that. I urge this board of trustees to have a place at the negotiating table. And I think that the chairwoman and or her designee and someone else, so you have someone to hear, I think that this board of trustees should have a place at the table with the administration. I have been increasingly concerned at times that the administration, though well-intended, like with which I've seen with POCO and when after George Floyd, that they insist on doing negotiations in the cover of darkness. And I think there is a sense of urgency that the public has a right to know what is going on. We cannot miss this moment. We have less than a month. The public needs and has a right to know about this, but at the very least, I do think the Board of Trustees should be at the negotiating table. Lastly, I just wanted to say that I do believe that we should start a capital campaign to expand the renovation immediately through the redevelopment agency, who is often used as a place where we can raise funds for things in Norwalk. So please, we can sell the bank building. Please meet the option, sell the bank building at a plus to the taxpayers. This is an election year. Where is the sense of urgency? Thank you for all you do, but I think this Board of Trustees once again should save us. If it wasn't for the wisdom of this Board of Trustees and former Chairman Knopp, we wouldn't even have the option to buy the lots because of the way the administration and the zoning commission handled that piece of property. So please come again, be our heroes and be part of the team that negotiates. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Diane. I see that John Levin is here. John, are you able to?
He wants to say anything. Hold on. Mona, you can go ahead with your question to him.
John. Hold on, let me. John, can you hear us? is he present or is he making a comment? Let's see.
Well, it looks like he's on
Doesn't have
mute,
his
so I don't
hand
know
up.
what he's saying because he's on mute.
I'll just,
I'm trying to promote him to panelist, but for some reason, I was able to do Diane, but I can't promote him for some reason.
hold on, let's just give this a second to see if it can work. We are having some technical difficulty.
It could be that he may not want to speak because he would raise his hand, I'm assuming.
Oh,
Hello?
yeah, hold on, he's texting me.
Oh, no, I thought I heard somebody say something.
He said John Levin here, and then it says, I asked him if he has a comment, and we can't hear him. So, not really sure what to do. I guess we can move on and maybe he'll text me back or the technology will start to work.
I think we should move on.
Yep, okay, we'll move on. Let's move on. Okay, so Cheryl, would you like to introduce our guest?
Happy to. So last month we spoke about the electric car charging station at the Sono Library, which the South Norwalk Electric Works proposed. And tonight we have one of SNU's consultants, Mike Casella, here to answer any questions that anyone has. So the proposal was to put 2 charging stations in the Sono parking lot. And one of the counter suggestions was perhaps to put it in front of the library where we had the meters. I don't know if anyone's taken a ride down Washington Street, but there's no more meters. They now have the pay to park. They just have a little pole where you can pay to park. So, with that said, Mike, I don't know if you have any introductory remarks before taking questions.
No, just as you said, I'm a consultant for South Norwalk Electric and Water, mostly on the energy efficiency side, but I've been working on some other sustainability projects like EV chargers and solar projects. The library came up as a potential site for an EV charging station. Not quite sure why it came up. I think basically it has a pretty centralized location and it makes it a good place to have a charger. So we did a site visit and scoped out the parking lot. And the logical place to put a charging station would be on the east side, which is as you go in the driveway, you take a left and at the end of the lot, a space closest to the building. So you would have to run a trench from the front of the building back to the parking lot to install the electrical service. But originally we had thought about putting in 2 charging stations. I understand the sensitivity about parking and how important it is. we could probably amend that or revise that concept to just have one charging station. And a charging station could have one or two ports, which means it could take up one or two spaces. So that would be the option for the rear of the building. The front of the building right now is not an option, although it could be down the road, and it's not an option now because I've been told by the director of electrical operations at SNU that the city is going to basically be realigning Washington Street. So anything that goes in now runs the risk of being taken out later. So that's really the situation. Again, back to the sensitivity of the parking. These charging stations have intelligence. They know, they inform the owner of the car when the car has reached 80% of its charging capacity. And they send a note, they send an email to the owner saying it's time for you to move your car. So you wouldn't have somebody just camping, you wouldn't have somebody camping their car there all day, although if they did, it's much like exceeding your time at a parking meter, you're gonna get charged for that extra time. So, it's obviously entirely up to you. I understand the parking situation. The idea from SNU's perspective is let's do what we can to encourage, this whole electrification movement away from fossil fuels. And yeah, it's a way for the library to offer something in addition to your customers. So that, and that's it in a nutshell. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. And I'll answer any questions that I might be able to answer for you.
Alex, your hand is up.
You're on mute, Alex.
You're on-
Mike, how's the beach?
Yeah, I wish. I'm actually in New Britain, which is probably the farthest place from the beach that you can get.
My condolences. So I was going to also raise the point that I think the problem with an on-street charging station is that the charging could take longer than the parking allowance in terms of time. I love the idea of putting it in our lot. I had asked the mayor last year to consider one for also the Belden branch. Right now, we're charging our little mobile library van, plugging into the main building there. So I think the idea of come in, recharge your car, read a book makes a lot of sense. And we're giving people something to do while the charging is going on. And I think it promotes exactly the kind of climate change awareness that the library ought to be a part of. So I think it's a very good idea. And to do 2 out of 1 station seems to me even better. So I think that's something I would strongly favor.
Thank you.
And thank you for your work on it.
Mhm.
Ralph?
Mike, I'm curious, what do you expect to be the length of time that an average car would take for fueling up on those stations?
These are level 2 chargers. I don't want to get too technical with you or for you, but a level 1 charger is something that you would put in your house at 110, your home voltage. Level 2 is about twice that voltage. A level 1 charger probably take you 8 to 10 hours to charge your car overnight. A level 2 charger can charge your car in 3 to 4 hours. And then you have the level 3, the high voltage chargers, which can charge a car in about 20 minutes, but that's not what we're talking about here. Those are, more industrial, commercial, highway type chargers. So it probably 3 to 4 hours, you could get it up to 80%, depending on where you start, obviously. Oh, there goes my camera again.
I have a couple of questions, but if there's anybody else that would like to, go ahead, Geraldo.
Yeah, just curious, so with regards to the parking, if people park in a spot and they're not charging the car, how are we managing that? Like right now they're limited, so if we're gonna give up 2 spaces, if there's a demand for those spaces and somebody comes and they just park there, how are we managing?
I think it's self-policing. I don't think there's any other way to, to check that. You could have a camera out there.
Yeah, but people are busy. That was just a curiosity. I don't have an answer to it. I didn't know if there was
It's a,
a
you know, it's a good question. It's a question of how you
Well, no, I
manage.
can actually answer that. We do have a guard. So
Uh-huh.
the guard does police outside. So he could, potentially, take down license plate numbers and things like that if somebody's parked there who should not be parked there.
And it only becomes a problem if somebody comes to then charge. I'm saying if they were parked in there for, let's figure there was no other space, I'm going in for 15 minutes. But the issue is if somebody comes to charge, if you
Mhm,
have a process to manage that.
Gotcha. Good question. I think it's something we could probably work out with the guard.
Yeah, I think if somebody pulls in and there's somebody in the lot and you have in the space and you have a guard there, they would go to the guard, and say, can you get this car moved? Having a guard there solves a lot of problems.
So I,
Next, que-
go ahead.
sorry, one other thing. Do you provide reports for usage? Like
Yes.
hours used and that we will be able to see?
Yeah, yeah. All right, like I said, these are pretty smart pieces of equipment. And they track consumption, and you can print out a report at any given time.
Or somebody at the library and the management can get a report, say
Yeah.
monthly periodic
Yeah.
report.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this would be something done in partnership with the library. So all those kinds of logistical and reporting things would be done in conjunction with the library. It's not something where SNU wants to plunk a piece of hardware in the parking lot and say, sayonara. It really is something that needs to be done collaboratively.
Thank you. Good.
So I'm all for energy efficiency and the work that you're doing. I have an electric car myself,
Yeah.
but, and having had the experience of going around and charging and things like that, there are a few concerns that come to mind. One is, so after 4 hours, you're saying that, that a car would get penalized? Or is that through the system or?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
when
I didn't
when the
think
car
about that.
reaches 80% charge,
Mhm.
a text gets sent to the owner saying, your car is going to be fully charged in so many minutes and you need to move it. And then you can set the penalty. You can have no penalty, or you can say that after 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you're going to start incurring a penalty. Those are some of the, finer points of the intelligence of the system.
Okay, and then, and how, because I have been to many chargers that are broken.
Yeah.
Or not working or out of power. This happens a lot. And, so, I mean, what is the, what happens when that?
Yeah. The particular charger we're looking at, and we've done our due diligence. We've looked at 3 vendors. The one we're settling on is probably one of the 2 largest in the country. It's called ChargePoint. In fact, SNU is in the process of putting 2 2-port chargers at their water company headquarters on Water Street. So, we know these guys and we've been dealing with them. And one of the things you have an option to purchase is a maintenance contract. So we would buy that maintenance contract and SNU would pay for it, obviously. And part of that maintenance contract is the ongoing monitoring of the station. So if anything goes wrong with the station and it's not functioning, ChargePoint, would notify somebody at SNU immediately that there's something wrong there. We have pretty good experience with chargers in Norwalk because, believe it or not, there were 2 chargers at the East Norwalk Library on Van Zant Street. And they've been in there at least 5 years and they've had no maintenance issues with them. And we've been tracking the usage on those and it's been increasing as you would expect. So,
Yeah, I use those sometimes, so.
yeah,
So those are free chargers.
right.
And my experience with ChargePoint is that they're not, I mean, are our chargers going to be free?
No, No, and in the South I'm sorry, I'm plugging in here because my battery's running low, but the East Norwalk Chargers are not going to be free much longer as
But they
well.
have been, yeah.
Yeah, that they were put in under a grant by the state that said you had to leave them free for a couple of years. And those couple of years are well, beyond their life. And I've been talking to them, as a matter of fact, about starting to charge, and they're going to.
Okay. And my final question is for Sherelle. Like, how often is the parking, like, if you have a popular program, like, how often is our library lot full?
It's when we have the bigger programs or when we have story times.
So like once a week or twice a week, maybe, or?
At present, I'd say twice a week. But also we're having, the programs for Steve Kleppin's group when they're doing the zoning. So, it gets pretty full when they have those meetings during the evenings.
Okay, thanks. Geraldo?
I think his hand was up from before.
Yeah, oh, sorry,
Oh,
Geraldo,
sorry.
are you done?
Yes.
Okay.
I do have a question. I went to Wilton. They actually have, let's see if I can pull it up. They had a charging station too. Oh my gosh, can I pull this thing up? So, I don't know if anyone can see this. Does it look something like this, or is it more modern?
I don't have a cuffware. That looks to me like it's a juice bar charger. And there are juice bar chargers in
Oh,
Norwalk. In fact, Juice Bar is a company that's located in Norwalk, but the charge point stations are probably twice as high.
mhm.
And they have the ability to put, whatever advertising you want on them. Then they also have a 7-inch screen that you use to maneuver, when you put your credit card in, and it prompts you through, what the process is.
Okay.
I can send you a picture of a charge point
Okay. That's good.
charger.
All right, thank you.
So
And
my message back to SNU is that there is interest, and that we'll continue discussion, I guess, with you, Cheryl, or who would be our contact?
I can be your contact.
it's Sherelle.
Mona,
Cheryl?
Oh, Sherelle, yeah.
Okay,
and
I think,
Mona.
so, I mean, we will probably vote among ourselves, and then we'll have, and then Sherelle could be in touch with you.
okay, well, whatever your pleasure, let me know, and then we'll just move on from there.
Okay. Thank you
Mike,
so
thank
much.
you so much for being with us this evening. We really appreciate your time. We'll let you get back to your beach and your sand.
My beach in New Britain. My pleasure, guys. Good
Thank
night.
you very much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I'm trying to get out of here.
Is there any further discussion, or do you want to have I mean, can we vote on something like, do you feel like we're ready to vote on something like this today, or does anybody have any further comments on that?
I vote.
Well, do we know what their timetable is?
I don't. That would have been a great question. I can ask.
I mean, I'm all in favor of voting for it, but the problem is it wasn't on the agenda as a action item.
Good point.
Therefore, if people don't, somebody hypothetically might have a concern or question and they didn't know to attend. So to be on the safe side under FOI, I think we should put it on the agenda for action next meeting. But
it does says action items. It says action items, there's 4, 5, 6, 7, and I think that's number Is it number 7?
No, it's not on there.
No, it's on the director's report.
Oh.
And I don't think we can do it under new business, right?
Well, I say, unless they're going to, put it in next week. My guess is that they have to order it and all that stuff might take a little time. So, better be safe than sorry on FOI.
Okay, so why don't we put it on the agenda for voting for the next meeting, for the June 8th, I think, meeting? And go ahead, Geraldo.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm all in favor of electric vehicle and adding this to the library. One concern, which I've expressed, is, the inequities of, while we were talking about parking in the main library, what I'm seeing is we're going to lose 2 parking spaces in South Norwalk. And the issue is, if people don't have space there, then what do? Do they have to go to a paid parking location?
Hopefully we can work that out, once they build the apartment building across the street. If we can, figure out how many parking spaces they're going to give us. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
So, maybe as opposed to doing 2, we just do the 1.
Or if even the current parking space there, the charging areas, if they would give us some free ones available for the library 4 or something. And I mentioned this before, that the grocery store there does have parking space. I've been to that place and you're free parking. They used to have about 15 parking spaces that are free. Just have some limitations, say, for people that it's free for you to stay there for up to 2 hours, but there's nobody even managing it. So we should see if the city would give us some, have some way to give us some parking space
For
to make
sure.
up for the loss. Thank
Mary?
you.
Yes, my thought is that if we could possibly go to the city and say, we're doing this, putting these 2 spaces in, could you give us 2 more spaces in the Webster lot until, the new garage is built, in which we're asking for 22 spaces? I think it could be a negotiating tool on our behalf, because we're willing to do this. It's just a thought. But I am all for, putting it in.
Okay. I definitely, I think you all know by now, I definitely have my reservations about putting it in. I mean, the lot is not large at all. I just hate to lose spaces, especially in the lot that's like the spaces that are closest to the library. We talk, those ones across the street are kind of inconvenient. And if we do have days that the parking lot is entirely full, I think there's plenty other places in South Norwalk, including the train station and some other places that it makes sense to have electric parking. So that's kind of where I'm leaning, at least today. So it sounds like we're gonna vote on this we'll put this on action items for the next time. So so let's go back to the beginning and well, first let me say, are there any additions to the agenda? I have one kind of addition, it's a little bit old business, but I'd like to put the speaking of Sono and parking, the Webster lot letter, which has not been sent, but I sent it to all of you. So I just wanted to add that on to my report. Okay, so I put.
Moina, I'm
Yeah?
sorry to interrupt, but I still have a Nancy Chapman on my screen. Is
Oh,
that person here for public comment?
Oh, I think Nancy is.
Blue hat,
Yeah,
beard?
so this is why I'm confused, because that's actually John Levin. And Nancy is
Okay.
Nancy of Norwalk. She is a reporter, so I guess she is
Okay,
observing.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
So
I'm
Yeah,
observing.
we can hear you now.
we could probably have heard her before too, so. Okay, so I am, let's talk about, I put Blue Teapot and, I actually meant Library Cafe. So, it should be Library Cafe, although we are gonna talk a little bit about, the Blue Teapot. So, at the last meeting, I mentioned that, we were not totally clear as to when the Blue Teapot's kind of move out date was because of Nicole Potts saying the lease actually goes until September. I did contact the legal department, and according to Darren Callahan, the lease ends, when is according to her letter, which was March 31st. And she does, correct me if I'm wrong, Sherelle, have some things still remaining over there.
She does.
So I'm in contact with her to talk about a move out date. And Darren did say that if she were to want the space, she'd have to get insurance, she'd have to, through September, and her letter indicated that she would be closing business as of March 31st. So we're gonna coordinate a move out date with her. I do want to let you know that I have asked Geraldo to take the lead on our Library Cafe committee. He's a member of it, and I've asked him to take the lead on it. As you know from last time, we have we found the old RFP and we've been working on it, and I sent you all a draft just today, so I understand that maybe you haven't had a chance to look at it, but hoping maybe to approve it soon, and then maybe by the next meeting. But maybe Geraldo, do you want to talk about a little bit about what we did, as we looked at the RFP, and I can add some of my own thoughts, and Sherelle can too.
Okay. And I'll just say, just for clarity, I just agreed to this last night, so I haven't had any time to dedicate to it. And there are some gaps, even looking at the RFP that we have there, some basic corrections that need to be done in the RFP. I have had a lot of experience with more as an RFP contributor. I worked for a business process outsourcing firm where all of our business were obtained through RFP, and I participated a lot in writing RFP, not in the decision making of RFPs. So I look forward to be engaged in this. Yeah. So we can look, I think, I'll focus on cleaning up some of the outstanding things. I think we all did we made individual contribution, and we need to do a quick pass to look at what needs to be corrected. And I can take charge of that and, work with you and Sherelle too, and make sure everybody get an updated copy. That's it.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you.
And would anybody like to give any of their thoughts or feedback as we look at the RFP, what some things that we should look at? Or because otherwise we'll move on. Okay. So moving on. So governance committee, there are a couple things here. In my conversations with other libraries and organizations, I had a conversation with Dawn Laval. She's actually a director at the Connecticut State Library Board. and her specialty is governance. So I've asked her, and she offered to come to our meeting, next meeting, June 8th, to do a board training around issues of governance and, you know, kind of looking, you know, at our charter and in the context of code, in the context of, you know, an advisory board versus the role of an advisory board versus a governing board. And I really encourage all of us to be there. And if there are questions, like very specific questions, if you could send them to me that you'd like her to address, then we can, you know, please email me, call me, text me, let me know, because, you know, this way she can have as much information as possible. So that's going to be at our next meeting. I've also reached out to the Charter Revision Committee. To the entire committee, asking when the Norwalk Public Library can be on the agenda for one of their they're having a meeting tonight, when we can be on their agenda to look at our the Norwalk Public Library section of the charter, which is kind of outdated. It's about library appropriations, and it's like talks about all. It's really old. And so when we can be on the agenda, and also the process, I think the library charter revisions only really going into the charter and not the ordinances, but also talking about, you know, the process for changing the ordinance. So, you know, we need to get our letter out too. So there were a couple more things I wanted to do. And so also in talking to Dawn, I wanted to add a couple more things in there so that we can kind of put all of this information together and put it out. So are there any questions? Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, so will you circulate your draft letter before we meet with Dawn?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And you know, and that, yeah, for sure. Anything else? Okay. And then facilities committee. So thank you to the members who volunteered to be on that committee. It's Laurel, Ralph, and Patsy. And the way I'm thinking about it, and we can certainly, you know, revisit this once we get into, you know, a group. But I think the kind of the scope of the committee is to work with Sherelle to look at, to talk about carpeting and select a carpet, to talk about furnishings and you know, the money that we got from the capital budget, talk about furnishings, and to look at our current furniture to see how we can kind of make that money work as best possible and as you know, as much as we can. So I think what would be realistic is to try and meet at least once in person this summer, over the summer sometime. I know that's going to be like a little challenging, but let's like at least try to get together this summer in person in the main library to talk, so we have a plan for the fall moving forward.
I think I also requested to be on that committee.
Oh.
I don't even recall. Yeah,
Oh,
I did.
I didn't see your.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Anybody else? Alex.
Sorry, yeah, one other question. And Geraldo, this is something you may need to consider in the RFP issue. You know, it's not a certainty that whoever operates the cafe will be bringing their own furniture. They may do it, they may not do it. As I understand, a lot of that furniture was Najol's. And maybe we'll be able to strike the same kind of arrangement with the next operator, but not every operator is going to have their own furniture. So you may need to have a contingency in the RFP to find out whether or not the operator could also provide a certain number of tables and chairs, as well as kitchen equipment. I know some of that is Najol, some of that was installed by the city. You know, I think some of the fixtures, the plumbing and stuff was by the city, but the, espresso machine and coffee machine and, yada, 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 were hers. So I'm just saying, as people think about furniture, you may want to be a part of that conversation to make sure that we end up with people to sit while they're having their food.
I totally agree, Alex. I was thinking something similar. I'm sure that these two committees are gonna need to work together.
Yeah.
So,
And thank you, Alex. When I looked at the RFP, I wondered how people agreed, some of the vendors agreed to some of the terms at the beginning. Because even the issues about responsibility for plumbing, electricity, to me, those things, I would have assumed the city would be responsible because it puts some risk of asking somebody that's coming in to come and be responsible for the plumbing. And you don't know if it's going to be in compliance with what the city needs. So, but I'd seen that and wondered about the table. It looks like, it was a good deal from the library standpoint that somebody just agreed to all those terms. But if we're going to work it and try to get, small business to participate, we have to look at how we're going to address those items.
Geraldo, I think we do have in there that they would bring cafe-like tables and chairs.
It does, but I'm saying that may or limit some of the other small business. That's why I said I was surprised that she agreed and complied with all of those. A lot of times in RFP, people would question that.
well, now we have some experience, so,
Yeah.
we're better educated a little bit on some of these things. So,
Sorry, but we still have to figure out the cost if we're doing that. Is because then if it's not them, then it's the library has to fund under the city. So something to discuss.
yes,
That's it.
thank you. Oh, and so finally, I just wanted to bring up the Webster lot. I sent out the letter. And if there are any, feel free to email me any changes, or if you have any questions now about that letter, I'll plan to send it out probably, in the next few days, couple days. We did up the, JD recommended upping the number of spots to 30 as for the request. And so I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of that. Okay. And I think, so let's move on. Go ahead, Sherelle, you wanna?
Sure. So next up, we, on our action items area, we have unattended adult policy. I went through it a little bit last time, but I'll recap. It's basically for, for children's safety, that no unattended adult, meaning an adult without children, be allowed in the teen room or in the children's room, unless they're coming in, to get books, but not to hang out, to read or anything like that. Very short policy, straight, to the point.
Sherelle, I wondered in the teen room, half of that on the bottom, it says, children under the age of 12 and adults unaccompanied by youth in the 12 to 18 category are not allowed in the teen rooms. Above you have, except at the discretion of the library staff, and I wondered if you just wanted that out, just in case.
We might want to because somebody may abuse that. So I'm fine keeping it in and taking it out.
Okay.
But I was just thinking, there may be times, a tutor, although it's probably really noisy in the teen room, but a tutor, may want to go in if they can't find any other spot. But, I'm perfectly happy taking it out because, somebody could possibly try to abuse it.
No, I'm going in the other direction. You have it for the children's rooms, and I wanted to know if you wanted to add it to the teen rooms so that you have that option. That's all.
At the discretion.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because I was thinking of taking it out of the other one, but I think for consistency, yes, we can put it in.
Okay.
So if someone wants to motion, if we can add Laurel's her caveat.
I'll move to accept the new revised unattended adult policy with the addition of the sentence adult. Is it this adult and older children with special needs? Is that the one that you were saying should go down?
No, she's thinking they shouldn't be there unless they have permission,
Okay.
unless someone gives them permission.
With that addition. Anyone in a second? Mary, seconds, all in favor? Okay. Anyone abstain or against? All right, that looks unanimous.
So next is the room booking policy, and the language was just cleaned up. Basically, just giving, our updated hours, what the procedures are for booking the room. And, basic things like no fire, no hot pots, things like that. And so we shortened it quite a bit because a lot of the language was redundant, a lot of the language was old. We have included in a nice chart what the cost of each room is, and that, local nonprofits, don't have to pay.
Does anyone want to move?
Motion to approve. I will.
Thank you, Laura.
Second,
Second,
Janie seconds.
I don't know. Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous.
So the Sono renovation contract for the repurposing of the first floor of the Sono Library was sent, I believe, the day of the last meeting. I know some people chimed in, I think Mary and Janie. So if anyone's had a chance to review the contract, if you have any changes for the city attorneys, let me know.
I don't have any changes, but I just like to make a comment, that contract, I know nothing about renovation and construction contracts. So when I see a document that's like this many pages, I really feel ill-equipped to really to understand it or to really review it. So I just want to make that comment. But I guess as a board, we're going to vote on this. Go ahead, Alex.
You're
No one can
muted.
hear you.
We are the board that's authorized to approve modifications and changes to the facilities of the Norwalk Public Library. And we can well exercise our responsibility, even if we're not experts in reading construction contracts, because we can rely on the city officials who are experts, whether the legal department, the procurement department, Alan Lowe and the facilities department. And we take their judgment and advice and then make our decision about what's in the best interest of the library. As I mentioned in my email, I think the importance of doing this is that then the approval of the contract and the work that gets carried out to implement the contract is under the city's purview. And in Connecticut, municipal law makes a big distinction between contracts that are approved by a entity responsible and things that are just done in an ad hoc way by well-meaning individuals without the legal umbrella of immunity for individual employees that approval by this board brings with it. So I think it's important both for the board and for all the employees of the library who will be working to implement this, that the board act on it with the good advice of the city's experts in construction work. So I don't think anybody should hold back because they're not an expert in reading a construction contract. That's why we work with other city departments, but in the end, it's our responsibility to make a final decision in a way that brings with it the umbrella of protection under municipal law for carrying out the work.
So Alex, what should I look for as a board member? Like, how do I approach reading a document like this in a responsible way?
Well, I think what you do is find out, has it been reviewed by the city law department, for example? Has it been reviewed by the city's procurement department? Has it been reviewed by Alan Lowe and his
Thank
department,
you.
who are responsible for construction management? And if they all feel that the contract is appropriate, the bid is responsible, the contractor has the appropriate credentials, and it does what we want it to do, then we vote on whether or not we want to go forward. But I don't think your reading of the terms, as beneficial as it might be, is necessarily going to be something that, you know, the people who know how to determine who's a responsible bidder and who isn't. I mean, don't forget, under state law, it's the lowest responsible bidder that should be selected, not just the low bidder. And checking the credentials, the experience, the recommendations, the past performance of a general contractor is something that we rely on the city purchasing department to do. So if they tell you the contract is, accomplishes what the library put in the specifications, it's the lowest responsible bid, the credentials of the contractor are reliable, and so on and so on, then I think if all those things fall into place, then we can make a decision. Yes, we want to go forward because we support this project.
Thank you.
I mean, I guess I just, I know this is like. I mean, presumably this contract is being sent to us by. Like. The
So
city's.
the contract came from the legal department at the city, who's working in tandem with purchasing, and they also work in tandem with Allen Lowe. So this is what they thought would be a good contract for the city to execute with the contractor. Titan Enterprises.
I mean, you can imagine in an analogous situation, the Board of Education has been approving hundreds of millions of dollars of contract to improve every school in the city. There are not a lot of, window pane experts sitting on the council. They rely on the purchasing department to tell them that, well, except maybe Sherelle, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah,
That, they rely on these same city departments for a vastly larger number of contracts for vastly more money than we're talking about here. But in the end, does the contract do what the Board of Education wants it to do in terms of the school and education specifications? And here, does the contract and the contractor, will they produce the kind of improvements to the South Norwalk Library that we want? And, the answer seems to be yes. So I won't say it's a pro forma understanding, because standing behind our vote is a whole series of city employees with a tremendous amount of expertise giving us their review.
Okay, I mean, I understand what you're saying, Alex, and maybe we can take this up at like a more general. I mean, we're having a general conversation about contracting. The need to approve this, and it does seem a little pro forma right now. Unlike what we were doing with the policies, which seemed very much like we were putting a stamp of approval. But okay, so let's maybe this is one of the questions we can ask the library person next week in terms of the city contracts, because I also feel a little bit like I'm voting for it, but I really I mean, I feel like I don't really even know exactly what I'm voting for. So so would anyone like to move to approve the contract with the City of Norwalk contract for construction services with Titan Enterprises?
I move to approve.
Second? Laurel? All in favor? Okay, that's everyone. I'm gonna abstain. Just because I made those comments and I feel like I need to abstain, but okay. So, contract.
well, that's pretty exciting. We've been waiting a long time for this project, so I'm very excited. Thank you. And I do, as Alex mentioned, I do trust the city's legal team, to protect the investment.
Okay, so what's next on the agenda?
Library Without Borders MOU. The group from Library Without Borders was with us, I believe, the last meeting. And basically, it's a contract between the National Library Without Borders and the state of Connecticut. And they've chosen, we're one of 6 libraries in Connecticut that they've chosen to work with. So basically, they are interviewing many stakeholders. And so anybody who recommends someone, they also ask that person to recommend, so they're making their way around Norwalk. And what's really nice is, you know, they're getting a cross-section of the city, so very diverse. We were called today, they want to speak with the literacy volunteers, tutors, and students, so they're really doing their due diligence. They check in once a week. I did miss them this week. And so they'll give us a nice product, you know, that should be ready at the end of their year with us. So basically, we're looking for, you know, how, and this will be great when we get ready, you know, to expand our main library, how people want to use their library and finding those people who are not using the library. For instance, everyone isn't, you know, some people are unplugged. They're not, you know, on the internet, they're not on their cell phones. So how do we reach those people? You know, some people just, we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. So they will help us understand what we don't know. And I'm really looking forward to their report. So the MOU is basically, you know, what they're going to do with us. And I'm really excited. Geraldo? Oh, I'm sorry, Moina.
No, go ahead, Geraldo.
Yeah, when do they get, you know, get engaged with the process in the community? Like, my understanding is they're collecting data now and trying to assess what's needed.
Yep.
What's your target period that they would
I
start?
think their target probably is like within 9 months to be able to have a report that they, you know, will sit down, they'll work with the team, the management team, and the board, of course, you know, to make sure that it's a document that we've worked on together and something that's not just going to sit on the shelf, but something that we can actually use.
So their deliverables are recommendations that they put forward, or they're going to implement something?
No, they're basically recommendations that we can implement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alex.
Yeah, so here again, as in the previous item, there's a principle involved, which is that it's this board's authority to approve agreements with third parties about things that commit the library to certain activities. And this is not a complicated agreement, it's 2 pages, pretty simple. And just one example, this MOU commits the library to setting up a pop-up library somewhere in the city. They mentioned to us when they were here a very interesting idea that in some other places, they had recommended a pop-up library in a laundromat, so that people who are occupied for a lot of hours doing their laundry would have at the same time access to the resources of the town's library. What if somebody slips and falls while reaching for a book in the pop-up library and sues the city for injuries? You know, these are things that happen. And unless this board has approved an agreement, it may be that whatever employee without the board's approval authorized that kind of activity might be personally liable and would not enjoy the immunity that comes with, under municipal law, of being a city employee engaged in the work of the municipality while operating the pop-up library in a laundromat. So I think it's important, both as a matter of principle for the board's jurisdiction, but also important to protect all of our employees from lawsuits involving personal injury or property damage that simply happened by accident or by negligence, and make sure that those people are protected because they're carrying out an agreement, an MOU, a contract, whatever, that this board has authorized. And that's why I've suggested, even though the work of the libraries across America is underway, that we ratify that MOU as a board to make sure that we've given it our formal approval.
Alex, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, I move that we ratify the MOU between the Norwalk Public Library, libraries across America, and I don't remember whether the state of Connecticut is a party to it or not, but the MOU that was presented to us in the packet.
Is there any discussion or? Does anyone want a second? All in favor?
Just for the record for Telesco, it was Ralph Bloom who seconded. I
Okay,
think we said we were gonna table the draft because it just went out today.
pardon me?
Did we say we were gonna table the draft cafe?
Yep, yeah,
Alright.
we're gonna table that, yep.
Okay. So I move on to library director's report.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we discussed the electric car charging station. The next on the agenda is the solar charging station at Sono. We do have actually I got that with ARPA funds. I purchased 2 of them with ARPA funds that we applied for with the state and received a nice grant. And the one at the main library was put up immediately. We could not figure out where we wanted to put it at Sono. So we have identified a spot. And those are our 2 posers. So we're thinking of having it here. It doesn't stick out anywhere. Someone can sit on the edge here if they want to charge, wait for their whatever device they have, cell phone, iPad, to charge. So I've talked to, was it DPW? I think it was, that to come by and just take a look as well. And so I just wanted to run it by the board to see if you thought this was a nice place. It's somewhere where it's visible, where people can see when they're riding by, sort of a nice little advertisement. So that's it in a nutshell.
I think it's a perfect spot.
I think our guys do too. They thought they were so this is Mark on the left, who's always posing, and Otis on the right.
It's always smiling.
Always smiling, this one, always posing, this one.
That's gonna be bolted down, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
same as at
Somebody
admin.
just walking off with it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions, or Morning, do you want to call for? I don't know if we need to vote or not.
We need
I'm
to
not
vote
sure.
on that? I don't.
Alex, what do you think?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we've all looked at it and nobody's objected to it, so.
Okay. The GNLV renovation update. Neil has proposed some dates for meeting with the vendors. I did circulate the information so everyone can see who bid it and what their bids were. So I can circulate that date in the event anybody wants to attend. And book banning, I don't know if we have time. I wanted to show a quick video and then talk about book banning. It is 8:17. Are you okay with that, or you want to save it for next meeting?
I mean, I know it's getting late and But I don't think next meeting is gonna be that great either, especially if we have Dawn coming and doing some board training. So how long is it?
I would probably say like, altogether maybe 8 minutes.
I mean, if it's okay with everyone, I think this is a really, really important topic.
Moina
and it-
really wanted this topic.
I do. I feel like I can't open the newspaper. I can't read anything on the internet without this topic. Like, this is, a topic of national, local concern, and we should be educating ourselves as much as we can about the topic. So I don't know if it's okay with everyone, if you want to talk.
think
I mean,
most
also,
places are
I'm
saying,
just curious, like how, if there's been any calls, you and I have talked about this, and I just think as a board, it's important that, if
yeah.
there are, like, how is this having any impact here in Norwalk? And if there have been, any call, if you've gotten any calls or anything.
So, I'll start and then we can, talk about it. So this is it in, let's see, we might be able to interrupt it halfway through, but it's actually very interesting. It is, War of the Words, the fight over banning books, Sunday morning. And
It's a trend you've no doubt read about, the growing list of books banned in our nation's classrooms and libraries. Martha Teichner takes us to the front lines of a war on words. I'm looking at Catch-22. Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle, The Great Gatsby, classics. Every one of them banned in some places. The Chicago Public Library put them on display in defiance of efforts nationwide to ban books. There was somebody who objected to the profanity or the challenge to the status quo. Deborah Caldwell Stone is director of the American Library Association's Office of Intellectual Freedom. Her job is to know what's being targeted. LGBTQIA books they deem to be critical race theory, but were actually books on the history of racism, slavery in the United States, or representing Black voices, were overwhelmingly being targeted by these demands to remove books. Tomorrow, the American Library Association will announce the most challenged books of 2022. Yes, race, controversial aspects of history, vulgarity, and violence may be red flags found in a number of books already challenged or banned, but sex and gender are now overwhelmingly the subject matter being attacked.
Parents, when they're sending their kids to school, they should not have to worry about this garbage being in the schools.
Ammunition for Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis's War on Woke. Books like Gender Queer, an intensely polarizing exploration of gender identity at the center of the book battles. It is a graphic novel, so certainly it's more in your face, but it's not intended to titillate. It's intended to provide a window onto one person's experience, not knowing their gender identity and needing to explore that. Between 2020 and 2022, the number of individual titles challenged spiked more than 1,100%, from just over 200 to more than 2,500. Since 2021, school districts have banned books in 37 states, with Florida and Texas leading the pack. So I think everyone has probably heard about Florida and Texas. There's lots of controversy and law over the banning of the books. So they basically showed the states, Texas being number one. And then you have Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Michigan, and
What happens when you hover over Connecticut? I'm just curious.
so attempts to restrict access to books, 13. Titles challenged in those attempts, 13. Most challenged title, NA. So when we were challenged with the SEEK group, both the state and national ALA were involved. And I did get one other phone call, a little bit vehement. And he said he was gonna call back, but he might, I just told him that we had gone through the process, very respectfully, and he did not call back. I'm hoping he's not watching and decides to call back. But, so we've had, well, since in my tenure, and there may have been another, but in my tenure, we've had one title. So it talks about who initiates, and this is from ALA, censorship by the numbers, let freedom read. So who initiates the challenges? Here it says 17% religious groups, 15% boards or administrations, 3% librarians or teachers, 3% elected officials, 30% parents, and 28% patrons. Where do the challenges take place? Public libraries, school libraries, schools and higher education institutions. We did see that the numbers have increased from 2003, from 305 to 2022 to roughly 2,500. So that's pretty huge. And most of the books, let's see if I have that. Oh, here they are. So most of the books were, and I always get it, LGBTQA books. So, and most of them were, the reasons they were being challenged was either because of sexual content. I believe one of them, The Bluest Eye, was because of incest. So all of them were challenged because of sexually explicit, or what they're saying are sexually explicit themes. And so these are the most challenged from 2022 from the Office of Intellectual Freedom. Any questions?
I just want to say thanks. I think it's really important to keep ourselves as a group kind of informed about this topic. And while we don't, luckily have kind of lots of people kind of banging down the doors, it's I think also kind of in solidarity with libraries across the country, it's important to know what's going on. So
And I want to just share my my signature. My new signature for my email reads, "Never in recorded history has a 4-year-old found his father's loaded book and accidentally killed his sister, but we ban books."
hey, thank you.
And finally, I lost my agenda, but I think last on the agenda, Kathy Rauscher has retired. I'm not I have to get from the city exactly how long Kathy has been here, but I know it's over 23 years. She was here, I believe, when I came. Kathy was a phenomenal employee. She's one of those people who just sort of stayed behind the scenes and did the lion's share of work. And to sum her up are the words that I shared with you in an email, that a truly great coworker is hard to find, difficult to part with, and impossible to forget. I did hear from Kathy today. I do miss her quite a bit, but I did hear from her today, and then I wished her a happy first day of retirement.
23 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, and she just was a genuinely nice person, very precise, just no drama. She came to work, and she, she did a phenomenal job for Norwalk Public Library.
Was her last day yesterday?
It was yesterday.
Was there something special done for her?
I know she did not want a party no matter what. And, people tried, but she just did not want a party. she and I did go out to eat, and I have to tell you that they're renovating their home. And she showed me the place that they're going to renovate, to rent in Berlin. 10 acres of land, and they're renting it for under 2,500 a month. I'm like, you lucky lady. So, absolutely beautiful.
Nice person.
Yeah, but so I wish her well. Her husband worked for the city of Norwalk as well, and they both retired this year. So, Kathy, if you're listening, we love you and we miss you. I was hoping.
Did she get, because now, when you retired, did you give her a plaque or something? Like, I know the watch or whatever for her retirement? Did she
Hopefully
receive?
we can talk about that in our next meeting. I would love to send her something, from the board.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to like think about, pick a year, like 20 plus years or 10 plus years or something that we can, as a board, consistently, give to people who are retiring. And, it could be as, small as a card or big as a, like some kind of actual gift. So.
I think a plaque would be nice, or,
Yeah, why don't we'll put that on the agenda for the meet. Well, we should do
Sure.
something at the next meeting.
For sure.
Before, okay, is there anything else, Cheryl?
Nope, that's it for my reports.
I just, before we close, I just wanted to make one comment, for the record about the, Sono contract, the Titan. I wanted just for my, from on my vote, I am very, very much in favor of the Sono renovation. And I just want to make that really clear. And I abstained because, I was trying to make a point about, it's hard to vote for me and on a contract that I don't really understand. So that I was just trying to make that point. It in no way kind of says anything about my support for the project. So I just want to put that on the record. So. Okay, so let's head over to the foundation meeting. Oh, first we have to adjourn our current meeting. I move to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
See you soon.
See
Bye.
ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.